This video is going to walk through some of the lists and the list functionality that you can do in Classpad.net. So I'm going to pull up the Calculate sticky and just show you how you can create lists. You can create lists and name them anything. So let's say I just want to name this list A. We're going to use this template right here, which is called the Define button, and we're going to put in our list. And to use a list to enter the values, you're going to use these curly brackets here so that you can find them in the soft keyboard or on your own calculator computer keyboard. But I'm just going to enter some numbers. Let's say I've collected some test values for my students, and I'm just going to enter maybe 5 at this point. So that's one way to create a list. You could also name it whatever you want. So we could call it students. And as long as I define it and use the curly brackets, then the program knows that it is a list. So let's just enter some values here. And so now I have a list called students. So you can name them whatever you want, and then you can use them later once you've defined them. So for example, now let's say I want to find what the mean of my list A is. What's the mean test of those 5 scores? I start typing in the word mean. Notice what happens. I put in an M and I have some options here, and this is what I want. So I could find the max of my list. I could find the mean. I can also find the median. And all you have to do is click in the word. So I could keep typing the word and then put my list name in. And it's going to find the mean of those set of 5 in my list. I could also, once I start typing, just click on the little template drop-down thing, and it brings it up for me, and it highlights where I need to enter my list name. So let's do this time the students. And so it's now finding the median of the students, 3. So very easy to do some quick calculations once you've defined your list. You can you know, you can do things like quartile, and let's list A. What's quartile 1 for list A? Lots and lots of options. You could sort them. So let's sort ascending of list A. Let's put all those tests in order. So now it just took my list and put it in ascending. I could have sorted. And so notice, here's my options. I could sort and put my list A in here and do it descending. So it can do a lot of functionality once you've entered and defined your list. Lots of quick ways to do some quick calculations. You can do min, max, mean, mode. I'll show you where to find all of the different things. You can also, as long as your lists have the same number of values, you could do things like list A plus students. And it's just going to add those values together. Corresponding term positions are going to be added together. I could subtract them. I could do lots of different things. So once you have lists, you can actually do operations with them. You can create lists different ways as well. Let's say you want to create a sequence, and you can give the calculator a so notice again, the minute I start typing, it knows that I want a sequence. So I could, so if you look down here, I wish I could, let's hide this keyboard here. It's my sequence. I'm going to enter what I want done. What's the expression that I'm doing to the values? What's the variable I'm using? Where am I starting? Where am I ending? And then if I want to change the step. So let's just do a simple sequence. So I'm going to my expression that I want. Let's say I want a square. So we're going to do x squared and comma, and I want them to be looking at the x variable. And I want to start with, say, the number 1, and I want to end with the number 10. And if I want to count by ones, I don't have to put anything. But if, let's say I want it to do every other, so 2 or 3, but we're going to leave it at 1, so we're going to leave that blank. Okay, so it did it this time. So I thought that's what I did before, but I guess not. So here's my sequence. And so I could do sequences that way. You could do a different type of sequence. Let's do a sequence where I want my values 3x plus 2. Oops. That's my, I want to use the x value. I want to start with 2 and end at 10, and I want to count by 2s. And so here's my new list. So it's not as many because I'm starting at the number 2. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So there's my 8. And then it's going to go to 4 and do the 4 because it's going by 2. So lots of different ways to create lists. Just type in values, name the list. Then once you have lists, you can do different things with it. Now I want to show you where you can find all the different list functionalities. So up here to the right, you'll see that the question mark, and that gives you a function list. This basically goes through all the possible functionality that you want. And if you look over here on the side, you'll see that there is this thing called list. So if I click it, here's all the things I can do with lists. I can do sequences, which you saw, augment, fill the list, do a sub list of a list if it's a really long list, shift, rotate, those types of things. So this is a great place to go if you're not quite sure what the functionality is. It shows you the syntax, etc. One other thing I want to show you, and I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. Once you have defined lists, so we have list A and students, if I go to statistics, so I'm over here pulling up a statistics, I can now put the list in a table very quickly simply by typing the list name here, and here is my list. And now once I have it in this table, now I can do things like make a scatter plot of that list and kind of compare. So you can see this sort of seems like a very strange outliner. And what if I wanted to do a box plot? Like, so maybe I want to do a box plot just to see how the scores represent. So very easy to see and enter your lists and use them in other parts of Classpad.net. So this is just a brief overview of what lists can do for you and how to find the list functions and how to work with lists.